Today's topic's going to be a very touchy one, and has to be handled delicately and with care. Today, we're going to be raising awareness around mental health. It's something within the community. We're not talking about ethnic groups, we're talking about community as humans, as we all live together on earth. Something that is an uncomfortable topic to talk about. And if not addressed in the right way, it could be misled or misconstrued. When we look at mental health, a lot of the time people talk about, not me, or look at it as a statement of embarrassment. And for me, I look at it as we could all succumb from pressure at any day. There's a saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. And a lot of people go about their daily lives thinking that they're strong and nothing could affect them. And it could be the smallest thing, could be just losing your job or a breakup or even getting a parking ticket or overdraft or your car being clamped, which could send you into a state of shock. And you might not be able to come out of that because your whole life you've been able to be this strong person, the go-to person. And when we look at that, this is why a lot of people don't go and seek help. They don't want to speak to no one. A lot of people lock themselves away when they're having a dark moment or they're feeling a bit low. I remember some years ago, from personal experiences, 2019, I was in between building something in another country, in the Isle of Man. But at the time, I was waiting for another colleague to finish up working in the prison system here, and then we were going to head off and start looking at venturing over in the Isle of Man. Within that time, life was going good. And even if we go back a year before that, just to show you how your whole world could turn upside down, 2018, March, a very close friend of mine, we used to call ourselves family members, passed away in their sleep. And sometimes when people die, you try and say to yourself, no, the person's not dead, they're going to come back, or you try not to think about it too much so it doesn't internalize and start destroying you from within. So I moved on and whatever else. I didn't even go to his funeral because I didn't want to. Sometimes you don't want to accept that someone's actually gone. So when you go to the funeral, that's the point where everyone they're crying, you then see them for the last time. So I didn't want that moment, so I didn't even turn up to that. And then we move on a few months. Another guy that I worked with for many years, he was like an uncle to me. And we became very close over the years. Then he disclosed to me that he had prostate cancer, went in at the test. Before you know it, it's like it just rapidly attacked him. Next thing, he's dead. So that's 2 deaths within that year. Then we then come to another month. A young boy dies in his house, burning from a fire. And I remember me and a few people fell out over that because to me, that death could have been prevented if safeguarding and other procedures had been followed. And due action did not take place for the negligence of that. Working in an environment where you've upset people sometimes is very uncomfortable, and you have to have tough skin to operate in an environment where nobody really likes you because you are going against the grain. But for years, I'd worked in the system and seeing 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18, 20 and upwards being murdered, but never had I seen a 7-year-old dying because of negligence. So that didn't sit right with me, and I had to speak out against that. Sometimes when you're the person that speaks out, you then end up getting a backlash. So I then had to deal with the consequences of that. The month after that, my business partner mysteriously dies. I spoke to him the first day, and by the Monday, we was meant to sign one of the biggest contracts. And he was someone that, if we said meet at 5 in the morning, we'll meet at 5 in the morning. Bobby died. After Bobby died, I just felt like this is unreal. And it was a confusing time, I'm not gonna lie, because when you and someone grow a business to the point where you're then having conversation about buying land, buying property, and doing things not only here but overseas, and then that person dies, mentally you have to get yourself prepared to move on alone. And I'm not one of those people where I'm just going to let everyone get close to me. So that was also another thing that I had to learn again, is like, you're not going to get back another Bobby. So you now have to move on and learn to cope with life by yourself. It was as if he came and he went and he knew he was going. So I then met up with an organization, a political party called People Before Profit. I had heard of them because they were the rebellious fraction of the political parties within Lewisham Council. I remember having a conversation with one of the founders, John Hamilton, and I said, John, look, there's a seat going in Whitefoot and I want to go for it. I knew nothing about politics, but I just needed a distraction from all the chaos that had happened some months before. And even if we even look before that, I remember in the beginning of this year, they sent private investigators after me because I had said I was going to run for the mayor of Lewisham, for goodness sake. And I just started thinking, what do these people think I am? I'm just a normal man, and to think that if I make something as a joke that there's some way I can achieve it, it shouldn't be that nervous of me. But I guess it was. So moving forward, I ran the election and came forth in 2019. And then I then ran again in New Cross in 2020. And I said to myself, you know what? No, 2021, yeah. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to put everything in this because I'm now not emotionally charged. I had buried my business partner by then. My business was then coming back to life. Everything was coming back to normal. I got rid of some of my leechy friends that were only around me for the good times. Some of them ran away when they thought that the good times were no longer going to come back. Some of them tried to come back as well. But what that taught me was, when you're down and out, you actually know who is there for you. And I remember a friend of mine, Iraqi, called me up. I remember he was saying to me, Gwen, we're going sauna. It's already booked. And I thought, I'm not sauna with you. What are you on? And it was his way of saying to me, listen, I know everyone thinks you're Superman, but you're my brethren, and I'm not going to have you breaking. I remember we went to sauna and I still have my phone, checking emails and everything else. And he's like, bro, put the phone away. What's wrong with you? No phones or nothing. Whatever's happening, you use your family, everyone's good. Leave the phone alone. Now remember, I was struggling just to get away from the phone. And I finally was able to put the phone down. And we sat there, we had a chat. And I realized that was the first time that I had relaxed in years. It had always been business. Emails, meetings, negotiations, pulling off this contract, checking up on staff, dealing with, and that's something people don't understand. Being a manager and a chief exec is one of the hardest things in the world. You have to deal with people's personalities. You have to deal with people thinking that they could pull one over on you. I've had staff where they've come in and they don't want to do any work. They just think they're going to get paid. And it's how do you then sack someone that you're friends with? It's a painful thing. Working with your friends, working with your family because you're trying to help them, and then in the end, no one has the same love for the organization as you. It is something that hurts to the core. These are the things that a lot of people end up feeling down about. And the reason why I've told you that story, because if I didn't have that destruction of running elections, I probably would have been consumed with the attack that happened to me. And it's an attack that, for those of you that's followed my journey, you will know, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It was a deep dive into my whole life, every corner of my life, my finances, everything. The first thing they went for was my organization, my finances, freezing my bank, broke into my bank, started checking my bins, breaking into my laptop, reading my emails, all of that sort of stuff. Not everyone could cope with that. It will make good Netflix material now, but at the time it was very, very testing times. And that's why I decided that we need to address the topic of mental health, because a lot of the time we see people getting on with life and we think, oh yeah, that person's all right. And we might overlook their cries to help and for support. It could be even your own partner, where your partner looks like, oh yeah, that's good, she's able to do this, she's superwoman, but have you stopped and asked her, are you okay? Do you want a break? It could be one of your family members that's struggling. It could be even certain family members that are invisible. It could be your grandparent, where because you're used to them just being in that house, you never ask them, are you okay? Are you okay for gas and electric? Are you okay for food? Do you need some water? What do you need? And in a way that we're not taking no for an answer, what do you need? Because although sometimes people look like they're coping, they might not be coping. They're just on autopilot, where nobody's asked, so I'm going to make sure that I do for self. And these are some of the principles that I've grown up from, where I've come from parents that are borderline. You look at them and think, you people think outside the box. And the same thing with my step-parent, where she's a senior social worker, beyond belief, moved from the countryside and come to London, and she's here like a rock star. To give up your whole life and go to a new part of the country and actually just live it is a big deal. And when you've got people like that around you as role models, all you could do is win. And I think one of the blessings that has got me to this place today is some of the role models that I had coming into this game. These were men that had been through the challenges and wasn't shy to tell me, Gwen, and look, this was going to happen to you. Be careful. Even a deep dive. I remember a friend of mine, he was the deputy mayor of police, and Lee Jasper warned me about this 10, 12 years before it even happened. Like, look, the bigger you get, make sure you keep your garden clean, because one day you're going to get a deep dive. Whether you've done nothing or not, the bigger you get, there's always going to be a challenge against you. And I guess I've got to that level where people decided that they were going to try and take me down. But the reason why I'm telling you that story is this. No one is beyond being broken. We are all humans, depending on our color, our size, the way we project on the outside. Something could happen to us. It could be a death. I lost one woman at a young age. She was ill, but because of the way I was raised, I was able to cope and carry on. I've seen friends and certain gangsters lose their parents and they crumble. Some of them have died not long after their parents because they couldn't cope, or they've lost a child, or they've lost a family member, or It could be anything. I've seen people go to war and they've come back. They were proud to go and serve our country, and now they come back there on the streets as homeless people and have a mental health breakdown because the services are not there to support them. It could happen to anyone. So what I'm saying is this: make sure that our family members and our neighbors are okay. And when I say neighbors, I'm not just talking the person next to you. I'm talking the person that you might think is okay, the person that if you ended up in a spot above you would turn to. Don't just think because that person's always a listening ear or they look strong, that they might not need to be asked, are you okay? So what we're going to do now, we're going to go out into Brixton, the heart of London, Windsor Square, and make sure we capture the voice of the community and see how the community feel about mental health and some of the support systems that they believe needs to be in place and needs to be implemented. So let's follow us down to Brixton Town.
So today we're just outside in Brixton speaking to the people in the local community and finding out what their views are on mental health and what support do they think is needed and what support there are within Brixton. And what we've found is a lot of people that we've spoken to find this as a topic that's affecting everyone within the Brixton community and wider afar within London and surrounding areas. The reason why we've chosen this topic this week is because we've seen in the media, mainstream media, even though there's been a blockout, is that there's been a lot of people being found hung in parks. We don't know whether it's foul play or whether it's suicide or whether it's a pact. Investigations are still going on. So we don't want to really speak too much on that until we get the facts. But something that is clear, that something's wrong within our community. A lot of people are struggling with their mental health currently and find it hard to find people to speak to, people to trust with the delicate information of how they're coping with their mental health. It's about looking to one and believing that that person would be able to support you and come to your refuge. Where does someone go to when they need help? Who do you turn to in that moment of darkness? And a moment when you feel like you're alone and suffering. This is something that has been going on for long and many decades have passed. People are still every day struggling, feeling like they can't turn to anyone. It could be your own family, your own partner, your own friends. When is the right time to talk about mental health? How do you even find the support that are out there and available to you? Over the years, I've met many people that have committed suicide or self-harm because they've felt alone. Let's come together as a community, one human race, and start supporting each other. As you could hear from a lot of the other people that are featured in today's series, it's not just impacting one person, it's impacting all of us as a collective and a whole. There should be no one be left alone to suffer in silence.
Straight Brixton, anything you want, left, right or center. Food, drinks, the good old vegetable them, poppy in a Brixton, you can't go wrong. Listen to the man, one up.
Blessings. 5 people being hung this week.
Really?
Yeah, found on trees hanging. This week. So we're just raising it in London, North London.
Depression and medication.
Yeah, help them. So help them with medication. What else?
Counseling.
Counseling. All right, thank you. Good answer. Yeah.
And the government for imply people. So we have faith and have little mercy can deal with the people then, because that anybody can deal with them kind of sick people there. I just the government bridging because right now, I'm even live nowhere neither. And every time I go somewhere, them say, the council say I'm not qualified.
And why? Why is that?
Because I don't got no sick issue. Like if I was a handicap, or if I did be a homosexual, or I got to prison, and those kind of things, they will more help you quicker, more, and you know, you're straight. You don't have no sickness and thing. And I've been here 25 years now, and I just get me stay, and I still can't get nowhere to live. But the handicapped people, you have to have patient. People have love, them head, and people who have patient can deal with the handicapped thing. Because even me, sometimes I see them out the street and I try to help them, you know. Cross the street. You have a man who can't see, and he might walk with that, you know, a thing there. Yeah, me help him. You get me? I do. Me not have no job to do them thing there, but me still help them bridging. Them the government need to put some serious people on it.
All right. Blessing and love.
There needs to be more than one person that can recommend people to be assessed.
And what about family and friends and wider community? What do you think they could do more to help?
Well, with the black community, it's still like, don't tell people your business, so I don't know what we would do there. I think it'd be with our community, it'd be something about raising awareness that it's like, doesn't necessarily need to be something wrong with the person, like up there. It might just be that they're going through something that they don't know how to handle. And because of the stigma within our community, they may feel that it's safe to go outside of the family, outside of their friends, because you might get things like, pull your socks up, what are you talking about, just get on with it. We don't do things like that.
And I think that's a lot of people's problem, where they feel like, you know what, I'm too embarrassed, or too much judgment is going to happen if I then cry out for help. So you know what, I'll suffer in silence.
Exactly. And if you do try to ask someone for help and you kind of get no response, then you feel even more embarrassed, even more shame, because you've actually asked someone for help and they've literally like closed the door in your face, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think also another big problem is sometimes people believe that you can't be broken. So if you're someone that is seen as a strong person within your family, within the community, when you do cry out for help, people could either think that you're joking or you don't need help, man, you're good.
Well, I think when you talk about strength, we have to go back with our community, what our ancestors have been through. So a lot of the things that we as a people have been through, we've had to be strong. So, like, if you look at it from outside the box, hundreds of years later, we're now saying, I can't cope, I can't manage with that. So I can see where people wouldn't initially be wanting to listen, but what I'm saying is that I agree with you, but we are essentially strong people. So for something to break us, my thing is okay, so you stopped me. If anyone said to me, I'm struggling, I'm going to take time to listen, because it doesn't matter how strong we are, what age we are, there may come a time in our life when we just don't know what to do.
It's a big problem.
It is a big problem in here.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's getting worse and worse and worse this year. So what can it help? I don't know.
So what suggestions would you give someone right now if they were at home watching this and struggling with their mental health? What would you say to them?
Oh my God, I don't know. Just let pray for them. I don't. You know, like in here is the loneliness. Is it? We need to support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else I can say then.
So anyone that wants to come down and talk to you, if they're feeling lonely, they could pass by and have a word?
When I'm free,
you are not. I'm from Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, we don't have all these welfare services. People help each other. You know, we talk each other. We eat together. That's where I came from. So, yeah.
Okay.
And here they give them too much money. They make them free when those people come out. They smoke. They drink. You know, not enough support. Only giving them money, money, money. It doesn't help the.
In the long run.
Most of the mental issue, they're free. They're out. And what they doing? They're smoking and drinking.
I'd probably say talk to family, talk to friends, and probably just like write stuff down and just kind of, just write it all down on a piece of paper and just get everything out as much as possible, really, in terms of what's going on inside, and try and find people that can relate to you and people you trust as well. But yeah, to be fair, even talking to strangers, because a lot of people who are family and stuff like that might give quite a biased opinion. So sometimes just hear from a random person their perspective on life in general can be quite interesting to give you some perspective on your own one. But yeah, I'd say the main thing would just be to talk about it and don't do anything rash.
So looking smart as you are, what do you do for a living?
Estate agent.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just going out on a view now.
Yeah, all right then. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, you as well.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. So today we're asking people in the community, what do you think needs to change around mental health?
Okay, well, I think for a start, there needs to be greater recognition of the problems of mental health than there is at the moment, and massive improvement in mental health services for young kids. Teenagers, and recognizing that their problems are real. They're not just teenage problems. They are living with a lot of stresses. I think there needs to be better understanding of the mental health stresses around social media and so on that teenagers and kids do. I think there's too much stigma still attached to mental health. We don't talk about it enough. As a society, I think there ought to be more conversations. But most of all, I think there needs to be a massive upgrade in resources, because there are too many people waiting for too long to be seen by professionals and to be helped.
That's something that's been a common theme of today, where a lot of people have complained about waiting lists and waiting for referrals to be made to mental health services.
Well, that's right. I mean, the referrals process takes forever. And then once you're referred, you've got to wait for somebody. And I don't know enough about it, but I don't think people are being seen enough. You know, you get like once a week or something, maybe. I don't know whether that's enough, whether there needs to be more other forms of support. And I would have thought something could be done with technology so that people have got, you know, apps and things like that to help them. Might work, I don't know.
Like virtual help, where
in between counselling sessions, not in place of, for sure. But
so if someone's waiting on a referral, there should be some sort of virtual help in the meantime.
Resource, yeah, somewhere they can go, because otherwise it's like you feel there's no safety net. You're just dangling above a huge drop, and there's nobody there to help. So, okay, the referrals process takes a long time, but put something in its place to support people.
And if someone was out there now and struggling at home, what would you say to that person?
I would like to be able to say to them, you will be seen, you will be helped, there is support for you. But at the moment, I don't feel confident that that is necessarily how people can feel, because I think it takes too long. I think it's shocking. I think it's a real disgrace. And I think coming off the back of COVID, we know there's a phenomenal number of kids not gone back to school since the lockdown. Now, they're not gone back because they can't face it in some way or other. So where is the help for those kids?
I think also as well, not just kids, we've got adults that they've been virtually working for so long, they've point blank refused to go back into the office.
Yeah, and they're very isolated and maybe don't realise how that isolation can affect them. So I just think there has not been enough recognition of the stress that COVID and lockdown put on everybody, and there needs to be a lot more.
Would you say the government needs to do more?
Oh, of course, 100%. I mean, they appear not to think it's important, and maybe they do think it's important, but what we see is that they don't really care enough. It's all other things are what they're concerned with. They're not concerned about people.
And I'll agree with that. If we could find money for wars, we should find money for a war against mental health.
Well, definitely. I agree with that. I mean, I do think the money for the war is really important, but the mental health of people is crucial to their future and our shared future.
But even if we look at wars and we look at the soldiers coming back with post-traumatic stress and a lot of them ending up homeless, I always say to people, we might see someone homeless on the road and laugh at them or refuse to give them a hot meal or buy them a sandwich. They could have been the soldiers that were at war protecting us.
Absolutely, and I think that has been proven in the past with soldiers fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and so on. Yeah. I mean, they're under so much pressure, but I don't know what help is available for them, but I'm sure it's not enough, because nothing this government does is enough in health and
I believe that the soldiers deserve the top care that there is, and all resources should be thrown at protecting soldiers' mental health. If they've gone away, risked their lives, been split away from their family to keep us safe, there should be no budget put on the resources given to soldiers.
None at all. None at all. I think it should be way more important than it is. And we should all be talking about it. We should all be having conversations like this. Because
thank you for joining us. Very important. Yeah? Thank you.
Good place to sit.
Yeah.
Actually listen to them. Yeah. Don't take everybody as a liar. Because lots of people like to lie to get themselves forward in certain situations where there's actually people out here that are suffering. And just actually listen to people and, if possible, take action.
Okay. And when you say take action, what do you mean?
Support them. So if it comes to a housing case, maybe go down to maybe if there's an organisation or someone that can assist them in writing a letter of referral to say they're going through this situation, can you assist this person? Just something to back up and corroborate their story, because it's a struggle out here.
Thank you very much.
I'll say express yourself. Talk to someone that you feel comfortable talking with, and if you don't feel comfortable talking to anyone, write down how you feel, and that will take a lot of weight off your shoulders. You know what I'm saying, and give you an opportunity to really speak about and really understand how you're feeling. Like, we do a lot of stuff at Poetry Unity, that's us there, where we use poetry as a tool to support young people's mental health. And we always tell young people that a great way to express yourself is by writing poetry and getting off your chest, because sometimes there isn't someone to talk to.
And apart from poetry, what do you think the responsibility of family members and friends are?
It's tough. I mean, I think for families, you should be there for your loved ones, of course, but sometimes they haven't got the capacity because they're going through something themselves. So I always tell people we need people, innit? Humans, we need people. But I always tell people, like, you can't rely on other people all the time because you don't know what they're going through. Do you see what I'm saying? But I feel like it takes a village to raise a child, as they say. So if we're there for each other, then obviously it can make a difference to take a weight off all of us. So I would say as family and friends, we should try to be there as much as possible, but not to the detriment of ourselves either.
Okay. So make sure you take care of yourself as well in the process.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
All right, thank you, brother. Yeah?
Bless.
Hello.
I'm under the Mental Health Act at the moment, actually. Okay. I'm trying to come off drugs. Okay. So it's underneath the Maudsley. Brixton's got a great hub for places like that. We've got the harbour. Yeah. We've got the Stockwell project. We're quite lucky in South London to have that. Yeah. To get funding, obviously, for rehabs and detox is very hard because the government is not giving funding for the area, especially Lambeth and Southwark. So, I think we need more places that you could go to. Lorraine Hewitt House is one of them. Yeah. And we're very lucky in South Lambeth.
Right. And for someone out there now struggling, what's one word of advice you could give them?
Don't give up. Every day you wake up, it's a new day. So don't give up and keep talking.
All right, thank you. Another blessed day, yeah? Take care. Very important topic. The question is, what support do you think there needs to be in the community for people struggling with mental health?
Speaking from my own personal experience, I believe there's just not much access for people and they're not aware of what is actually available. So if there's, I guess, an opportunity for people to be able to reach out, because not always, if someone comes to you, you might not always feel so comfortable, but if there's mediums for someone to reach out for someone, so support lines, or I guess see the same way we have job centres, maybe mental health centres where you can go in and like see what's available for you, or even to pass on the information to someone else. I think that could be very useful.
And if someone was at home now watching this and struggling, what bit of advice would you give them?
I believe that emotions are supposed to be felt. I think when I was going through my most difficult period, I was always trying to fight it, and I was always questioning why I feel this way, and I hated feeling this way, and it perpetuated the cycle because it made me feel even worse that I felt that way. But I believe we're supposed to go through the motions and feel out everything. Not because it will make it feel better, but it will stop it from just exacerbating and becoming unnecessarily worse.
Thank you. Love, bro.
Oh God Almighty, oh Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive them that trespass against us, but lead us not into temptation. The power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Deliver us from evil.
I pray this. Oh Father, Father, hear us when we cry.
All right.
Yeah, you know.
Blessings. Organizations need to actually learn who their client base are. They need to come out into the community, like where we are today, and become one with your community, instead of sitting in your offices reading through referral forms. We need to change the language that we're using when we're engaging with people. We need to make it comfortable for people to want to access services. We need to be more friendly and stop making people feel uncomfortable to access services.
In my experience, I've known someone that's been known to social services, known to their doctors, have a history of depression, and yet they are not consistently seen or given sessions. The only way they can definitely get sessions is if they literally stamp their feet and make a complaint. So if you compare that to someone that doesn't know where to go or who to talk to, how are they going to get access?
And I think one of the downfalls of the government is that everything's about money. So because they don't want to spend the money on giving someone the support that they need, they'll just leave the person there to suffer. And I think that's something that needs to change, where, as we just said, we need to do stuff ourselves. And I just said to you, like, start in soup kitchen, start in a safe place where people could come. Even if you don't want to talk to someone, you just want to get out your house for the day, we need to have more spaces like that.
And the referral times need to be shorter.
Yeah.
It's something like 3 to 6 months. That's if you're lucky. Yeah. If I've got a problem now, in 3 to 6 months, I might not be here. Yeah.
If somebody's in their house now suffering with mental health, one bit of advice you'll give them?
Well, call unto God or do some prayer, because the people them who work in the mental home are thief. I personally see them robbing the vulnerable, and it makes me feel so sad. Oh God Almighty, oh Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive them that trespass against us, but lead us not into temptation. The power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Deliver us from evil.
I pray this. Oh Father, Father, hear us when we cry.
Personally, I feel that the first point of call is knowing your people. You know, a lot of people don't know their friends and family. Like, you know them surface, but you don't know them like that. So if your friend or your family is going through a situation, you're supposed to be able to come in the house or hear from a phone call that a man's not right. You know, you're supposed to be able to pick up and be like, well, bro, is everything cool, right? And I feel like that's the thing that we're really missing, that people don't really have the connection with each other. That's the first point. The second point for me is safe spaces. So, yeah, you got your friends, you got your family, etc. But 9 times out of 10, you don't really trust them like that. You don't really trust them to be able to open up and tell them your deepest, darkest secrets, to tell them that, you know, you're struggling with this and you're struggling with that. Tell them that you haven't eaten for this amount of time and da-da-da-da-da. Now, if you don't have those safe spaces where you can go to a person and say, Rod, you know what, on a real, listen, bro, I ain't ate. I ain't had no food. I've been struggling with this. I'm close to doing that. Rare. And a man can take that and say, bro, I didn't even know that, bro. How can I help you? Instead of taking that and then now man's gone around the corner and said, bro, you know, my man's struggling and rare. So now you've got that coming back to you and you're saying, raw, I thought that was my people's. Yeah? So now you're going to bottle that up. And anything that's bottled up, a little bit of shake and turbulence, it's going to explode. Mental health. That's my take on it.
So even with what you just said there is an important point, because a lot of people don't want to share because they don't. You go share with someone else. But what we always have to remember is probably what you share with them is so deep that they might not be able to hold that. So they go to their person that they think they could trust, but it's like a triangle because it's like you don't trust the third person to tell that.
Do you know what? I understand that, and that's right. Everybody has their go-to person. Yeah. But when you're going to your go-to person, one thing you don't do is say, you know, Roy, I got a man, you know, and he just come to me and he said, rare. Now, if that person there has gone around somebody else and they've connected the dots, that's a different thing. Yes, yeah, I agree. But when you've gone there and you've said, you know, Roy, you've put Roy blatantly in this thing now, and you've highlighted his whole situation. You don't have to do that. We've got to be discreet and we've got to remember that people are people. Do you get me? You don't have to mention names. You don't have to do all of that. And, you know, come on, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what you just said there will be a good point for someone out there. Even if you have to share what someone else has said to you, try and anonymize it in a way that keeps that person's identity secret. Yeah.
You know, if you're your brother's keeper, etc., then you're supposed to minimize the blow on your brother. You know, you're not supposed to be exposing your brother and, you know, highlighting his situation, his difficulties, etc. No, man came to you in confidence and now you've just aired out his whole thing to the whole world. Nah, it's not on.
We end on that. And then the final bit is, if someone was out there struggling today, what bit of advice would you give them?
Don't keep it to yourself. You know, if you're struggling, yeah, there must be somebody out there that you can confide in, you know, even if it's a stranger. Sometimes, you know, that you're bottling up something and the best thing for you is just to release it. It's just to release it. Like, I do spoken word, but the only reason why I really do my spoken word is just for a release, you know? And sometimes I gotta know that something that I might say in my spoken word is gonna be beneficial to somebody over there. So sometimes you just need to let it out. You know, that's better than keeping it in.
With a lot of people struggling in the community now with their mental health, what kind of support do you think there needs to be out there to support people with their mental health?
A lot more community groups, a lot more things that are just put in place to just get an understanding of people's mind states and what they're going through, especially with the times. It's like we're all living in a space and a mentality that you never know what's happening next. So I feel like a lot more things just to help people go through the notions and just give them an understanding and a level of safe and calmness to let them help them, you know, balance through what the issues that we have at this present point in time.
And I know that you're someone that's firsthand seeing a lot of people's lives being saved and preserved just by having the soup kitchen there, where they can find somewhere to come and have someone to talk to and have a hot meal.
See, the most important thing, we use food as the main facilitator, but sometimes people just want conversation, just to be in an environment where they can just feel however they need to feel, be whoever they need to be, and just let go. And then, you know, you sit down and you meet people, and people from all different walks of life, and they tell you their stories and their history and their background, and it just humbles you and gives you a level of appreciation for life, because no matter what we're going through, there could always be someone going through worse. So it's been an amazing journey, and just continuously just be willing to talk to people and get an understanding of what they're going through, what they're dealing with. And who knows, sometimes even talking to someone can help you.
All right, thank you, Micah. I know you're busy, man. Love, brother, yeah?
So as you see, people, the journey to Brixton was a very interesting one. And no matter what colour or walk of life you come from, everyone recognizes and understands mental health should be a priority. One of the common themes that came out of that was the waiting time for services. People understanding what mental health is. People learning not to stigmatize someone that is going through a tough time. How do you support someone? Be the listening ear for them. Try and find out where their services. Support them to contact their MP. Support them to contact their counsellor. Support them to book an appointment at the GP. Support them to register at the GP. And also for people that might have indefinite leave or they've got a card to stay in the country, they might not be as lucky as others to have access to services. So we need to write to the MP and support that person to make sure that they don't die pleading for help. Because as we saw with a lot of the Windrush generation that struggled, lived in this country legally for years, paid their taxes and then struggled, and then some of them sadly ended up passing because they weren't entitled to care because they were classed as illegals. There's other invisible people here in this country suffering in silence. And for anyone else out there watching this, what I want you to take away from this program is, you're not alone. And understand that although some of us look stronger than others, we've all been to that place of, am I going to go left or am I going to stand up firm? Once you've got good people around you that care for you, you can get through this. Please don't suffer in silence. Reach out to someone. And even if the first person don't work, please try again. Love and blessing, people. Take care.